lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippecanoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME Scoops.com.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, the fine print's out of the way, and it's time to roll with the show, as we like to say. We're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And when I look into the chat, I see that Barb is in, the Bills are in, Paul's in, Suki's in. Man, everybody's just all wired up and dropping in. Good to see, good to see. Also, we've even got a new name in the chat. You listeners may have already noticed. I see people welcoming him aboard. So welcome to Merrill in the chat. And welcome, obviously, to anyone else who may be joining, because who knows if I'm going to look back at the chat or not until after the show. I don't know. That's just the way things go around here. First off, though, before we get into the links, want to give credits. Everybody may have noticed, I see a couple of comments in the chat. Yes, the music changed for tonight's show. And that's courtesy of Merrill Kazanjian and Metal Detecting NYC on YouTube. So obviously, if you have not checked out his Facebook page or his YouTube channel, it would be greatly appreciated if you'd go on over and give it a like, maybe subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out some of the videos while you're there. And if you're wondering, well, where is he? How can I find him? Well, that's simple enough. The links are in the description, along with our links for our friends over at Shooters and Prospectors, Chuck Smalley, the dealer of choice, at least for Beyond Sight and Sound, our friends at XTREME Scoops, Brute Magnetics, XP Team USA, Facebook group website, and podcast every other Friday, as well as our friends at River Sticks Outdoors on YouTube, and our friends at All Metal Militia on Facebook and YouTube. And I believe that covers all of our links, or actually gets us caught up to speed here. So, obviously, for those that have seen the promo, our guest tonight is Merrill Kazanjian. Yes, it's a mouthful, but I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And
sorry to hit all those letters.
And believe me, that one's easy compared to some of them I've had to do, and some of them I have butchered quite dramatically, unfortunately. So I try not to do that with a guest. I try to at least make sure that I can pronounce their name. One of these days I'll actually get something easy on, like Joe or something like that, Bob. But yes, Merrill Kazanjian.
I'm a 100 point word in Scrabble. I mean, it's that simple. It's like Kardashian with a few floating J's in there. So yeah, that's how my name goes.
I like it, definitely. And most people should know. Welcome to Steve in the chat, and nice. As most people should know, you operate the Metal Detecting NYC YouTube channel. You're doing very well for yourself, and as the name of the channel would kind of translate over to, obviously, you're up there in the Northeast. You're in New York. So let's go ahead and get things rolling and give you a chance to let the listeners know, because this is kind of your first appearance on a podcast. Let people know who you are and how you got started in the hobby. How long have you been detecting and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. So I've been detecting since 2012, and I'm married to a very bright and beautiful lady, and it's the one time I could say, I told you so. We were online at BJ's. The year was 2012, and there was a metal detector for $30. It was around Christmas time, and I was like, okay, I need that. And she was like, you're never going to use that. And I proved her wrong. I basically got I went every day for like a month, and what I paid for that detector, the $30, I think I got in half a month, and it's my Zen. Yeah, it's my Zen activity. It's my healthy time. Like I found a silver quarter, and I was absolutely hooked. So that's how I got into it. Yeah, detecting in New York, I suppose there's a lot of history here. There's also a lot of concrete, so you got to do your research. I'm a big fan of historic aerials. I'll put that in the description, not the description. I'll put that in the chat, just in case if somebody has not used the site. It's a site that you can go back in time and essentially see a satellite photo. For park hunts, that's really helpful. I could go on and on about metal detecting and stuff, so I'm going to give you a chance to speak, Josh, and I'm going to type that into the chat.
Okay, that works. Well, that's cool. You got out with the $30 detector, and you wind up finding a silver quarter and paying the detector off in less than a month. That's a unique start to the hobby. I've heard of a lot of different ways that people get started, and that's a new one. I've heard of them buying them at yard sales and stuff like that, but never a new one for $30 and paying it off in 2 weeks that way. So kudos to you to stick with it, because I'm sure at $30, I'm sure it probably didn't get very deep. But then again, I imagine as concentrated as the population is, because I've hunted in Chicago before, and clad coins are they're everywhere, literally. You can't even hardly find the old stuff because you got to get all the clad out of the way to get to it.
Well, that's the thing that I learned about New York. If you want to get to the good stuff, you got to get the bottle caps, the pull tabs out of the way, even the clad. And it's the first one. There's some stuff that does not sink as much, and there's still, believe it or not, are virgin sites in New York, and it taught me a lot just going through that. And I knew that I was hooked right away. And I had the idea in my head for years, but the metal detector was kind of hot pink, but that didn't bother me. You go out and you get your macho on and you swing it and you see what you find. I loved it right away.
Nice. Well, that, I mean, if you can handle swinging a $30 hot pink detector, I don't think you're necessarily worried about, what passersby may think, or that they're going to look at you weird or something like that.
It's like starting your rap career at 40. I mean, if you could swing a pink detector, you just go for it.
Right. That's when you go, hey, I'm comfortable with this. I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been an incredibly rewarding hobby for me. And I'm somebody who is naturally, I'm always thinking, I'm an artist as well. And, all of these things, my work, I'm an educator. I'm a vice principal in a school right now. I do a lot of stuff, and all of these things kind of wound me up. When I found metal detecting, it was the activity that it was woosah. It calmed me down, and that's why I put that Buddha reference in there.
Exactly.
I'm not necessarily a Buddhist, but I know the philosophy there, and it's my Zen activity.
Yeah, as it is for many of us, including a number of the people that I see in the chat as well. You had mentioned that you started in 2012 with this. I'm not even sure what brand that would have been.
I don't even remember.
Right. This hot pink detector, this $30 detector. And if it paid itself off in 2 weeks, I'm sure that you were enjoying yourself and having fun with it, but I sense that there was probably an upgrade very shortly after that.
Went to a Bounty Hunter 20 Discovery 2200 after that. And I used the coins from the toy detector to buy a Bounty Hunter. Loved the Bounty Hunter for a while. Just kept upgrading. I'm still continuing to do that. The new word is connoisseur. I'm a dad. I'm a busy guy. I really don't spend on too much stuff. So, I want to get detectors, and it helps with my YouTube channel. If I could compare them, I have to learn this stuff for myself. So I'm going to keep investing in them.
Absolutely. And that does bring up another good point too for some people listening. I mean, New York, that's, some areas can be kind of rough. Were you ever concerned about that, or did you just, obviously being from the area, know, okay, these areas are probably not good areas to try and go and detect in?
It's interesting. I grew up in Queens, but only child. Parents definitely tried to shelter me. They sent me out to Long Island, but you go in the direction that you're meant to go. I believe I've spent most of my career teaching in the South Bronx, and a lot of times people hear South Bronx, and it's been very good to me. And I don't know. I just think on top of what you learn as a detectorist, the history, there's a social psychology that happens also. For instance, even though I kind of exaggerated the hot pink, it had a hot pink stripe, but it was a black detector. Still, you feel it when you're out in public. You get people looking at you. It's taught me how to smile at people. It's taught me how to be more approachable. And, it's something that's really helped. And no matter where you put yourself in the city, whether it's a neighborhood that does not have a good reputation or not, you still have those same principles. Are you an approachable person or not? A lot of guys, understandably, they don't want to be approached, guys or girls, that is. But me, I try not to do it with my headphones because, what if somebody comes over, asks me a question? In
right.
One way, and you asked before, like, how did I get started? It actually started before I got that $30 detector. There was a dude I saw on the beach. I walked up to him. I asked questions. I kept that in my head for about 5 years before I bought the detector. But, those interactions are important.
Absolutely. I would
Yeah.
agree. And I'm sure with your, as you mentioned, you have a background in education and everything as a teacher and administrative and things of that nature. So I'm sure that, along the way, whether they had been acquired before then or not, along the way, you definitely picked up more, people skills to where
Yes.
you were more approachable or not necessarily shy of approaching others.
Oh, if you could get in front of a classroom full of teenagers without a second thought, you could. That prepares you for anything. You better believe it.
Right, great analogy too. Yeah, they're my toughest crowd. If I can make it through that, I can deal with anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's funny how if you let it steer you, the direction kind of lets itself prevail in life. And for me, metal detecting especially, it was like, that's what I need to do.
Nice. Yeah. Sometimes it's not so much that we choose the hobby as the hobby chooses us.
Yep.
We're drawn in from many different walks of life and certain life paths where you wind up meeting up with people that maybe you would have never had the opportunity to interact with had it not been for the hobby. I know recently, you did a beach hunt with 3 or 4 other guys,
That's
possibly
correct.
people from a local club or something.
No, I'm loving the YouTube metal detectorist community. I mean, there's so many people out there that I've been welcomed by a lot of people. I've met a lot of people, and I want to go out. I want to hunt. Like I think, especially when you become a professional, it's a different different chemistry than happens in school, and it's not that you stop getting friends, but it's just that you're so busy. But it's important to continue to make relationships over the course of your life, and it's been good on that level as well.
Nice. And when you started out, you mentioned you had paid that detector off in a fairly short time span, and even had enough coins to upgrade to the bounty hunter. When you started out, was it like everybody else where you're going, hey, I'll run down to the local park, or I'll go down to the beach? And did you find yourself evolving from there? Like, it seems in your videos, you do a number of different things. I mean, mudlarking, prospecting, beach hunting, water hunting, but it seems like you seem to fancy yourself more of a beach and water hunter.
It's interesting that you say that. This summer, definitely true. And part of the reason for that is because the temperature has been like close to 100 degrees here, and you want to be in the water when it's like that. So
Absolutely.
But I went to Dead Horse Bay today because I missed the history, and I went early before the sun came. The sun was out, but it was like morning. And, I want to do a little bit of everything. Let's put it that way. I love beach hunting, but when you get enough rings, it's like, but I'm not getting history. I need my history.
Right. Different environments dictate different hunts.
Yeah. And also in the summertime, the grass is so thick. It takes a few inches away from your coil. It's just... I went into this year with a game plan. I'm like, okay, the summer, doing a ton of beach detecting, and I want to be in the water. I don't want to be sweating, digging in a park. That's great in the fall and the spring and the winter, when the ground's not frozen, obviously. But that's the time to do that. Plus, you don't piss off the gardeners.
Right? Yeah, no unsightly
friends.
Plugs.
I actually see a question in the chat. If it's okay with you, Josh, I wanted to interact with the chat too. Merrill, what do you teach in school? I taught art for many years. I actually have a YouTube channel that happened by accident with, I think, 108,000 subscribers now from my lessons that I taught as an art teacher in school. So majority of my career was that. when my little people came along, my kids, art was a job that was getting cut. So I went back to school, got a degree in special education, and somehow I taught myself data. Right now, I'm director of data assessment technology, South Bronx Early College Academy. So it's like being a vice principal, but you have to be on top of everybody's grades. John T says he teaches rhyme.
Yeah, I seen that. I was going to say, and John says you teach rhyme. Apparently, he's been watching some rap battles with birds.
Those birds, man, they're brutal.
Right. Which, for those who don't catch the reference there, you have got to go back and check out some of his recent uploads on YouTube. When actually, because you were doing the detecting from 2012, but when did you get your inspiration to start your YouTube channel? I guess with doing the art channel already, it probably came naturally.
Yeah, I've loved YouTube as a how do I say this? I think of it like a museum. It's like a museum of our time, and I've wanted to contribute to it for a long time. I posted my first video on my channel in 2015, but I was still really serious about the other channel. But I do step-by-step tutorials. I'll do, I'm going to put the link in. Bear with me. My multitasking is horrendous. // almost done. .com/udraw. Okay, I put that in the chat. That's my art channel right there. But here's the thing. I kept teaching the same thing over and over and over again, and people wanted me to draw Justin Bieber and all of these people I don't really know. And, I wasn't feeling that. You want to spend your time, your free time doing what you love. And I love art, don't get me wrong. But doing those tutorials was not fun.
Very labor intensive.
Very labor intensive. Exactly. So doing this channel, I'm like, okay, this is my, people have a very public diary these days. YouTube is my very public diary, I guess. And at this stage of my life, I want to metal detect. I suppose I want to rap too. Why not?
Right.
Art should be something that morphs with you, that evolves with you. And if anybody forces themselves with something, it becomes contrived. And I've been wanting to do this channel for years. It's been kicking around in my brain. 2019 came around. I'm like, okay, and go.
Nice. Well, it's so far anyway, it seems like it's working out well for you. It's a well-mixed channel. Like I said, I've seen prospecting, I've seen mudlarking, I've seen water hunting, I've seen beach hunting, I've seen rapping.
No, you got to keep it. You got to switch it up. You got to follow that passion. I'm a believer in that. So it might morph some more. I want to listen to the audience. I want to give them value also, and that's why I try to tie in the data with like all of the different channels, and keep it interesting. Something that adds overall to the community.
Right, and that is another interesting point too that I was hoping to bring up is that you've got a little different spin on your channel, because there are some channels out there like Adventures in Dirt that feature small video clips of other channels, maybe a nice find that they've made or something like that, and you actually do kind of a monthly spotlight on other metal detecting YouTube channels and how they're evolving, I guess you could say.
When I did my art channel, I did a show called YouTube Art News, and it kind of brought the community together. Not everybody is wired for YouTube. Some people, they just like watching television and so forth, but YouTube it's really a social network, and it's very engulfing and it's very interactive. Before we went on, we were talking about how you start to interact with people from all around the world. And
Right.
it's really, I mean, of course, we've had letters delivered and, the trade routes, people have been going from one place to another. But in terms of easy access to talk to somebody all the way around the globe, this is a first in human history. So, naturally, I want to add to that. And, I'm following what seems to make sense to me, if that makes sense.
Right. And I see that Steve in the chat says, check out his rap videos.
Hey, Steve, what's going on?
Seems like we've got a few people in here that follow your channel.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, guys. I want to shout out Lou also, Mr. Indiana Tones. Yep.
Yeah, I did see Lou in there.
One of the, if not the best named channel, one of the best named channels on YouTube right there.
Right, yeah. Kind of dates him a little bit, though, too, because now it seems like all the kids want to be Tomb Raider or something.
It's true. It's sadly true. Yes. They even killed Harrison Ford in Star Wars.
Yeah, I know. Man, nobody can catch a break.
Yep.
But your feature of these YouTube channels, it sounds like you're having so much fun with it, and you're listing like 500 channels. I mean, where do you find the time? And you're thinking about maybe even taking it to 1,000?
Oh yeah. Well, if you get it coded the right way, it becomes pretty easy. I don't go to each channel and like copy the stuff down one at a time. I'm a beginning coder. Here's the thing. I started out as a painter. I love painting, but the art of the time is so different than what it was during the Renaissance and years ago. And, I'm getting into coding. I'm getting into metal detecting. These are different types of arts. And I still view them in the same realm. But long story short, I coded some of it, and I hired somebody from a site called freelancer.com to finish the coding, where it takes the public data. It's not like the Facebook thing that Facebook's in huge trouble for like stealing information. Each channel, you have the ability to like shut off the number of subscribers. Like some channels, they don't put that there. They don't make that information public. Right. What I do is I take there's a program that scrapes that. So there's a number of subscribers, number of views, what part of the world. I added to it. That's what I'm going to be premiering next month. And it really turns into some interesting data. I've gotten into data quite a bit. I'm in charge of all of my school's data, and I've learned Excel. Just stop me if this gets too much of a tangent from metal detecting. But, I see it as somewhat of an interesting thing. Like, I wanted to know, where in the world do people metal detect? It's huge in Russia. I learned that. I didn't know that beforehand. It's huge in South America. It's huge in Germany. It's huge in England. Part of this, of course, is where YouTube is huge, too. I'm sure it's even further spread out. But I found some Japanese channels, Chinese channels. It's been a learning experience.
Right. Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you feature Beach Pirate.
Yes.
So yeah, all over the place, and that's kind of the advantage of the technological day and age that we're in. We're able to have that information and be able to share it, and as well as communicate pretty much instantaneously.
Yeah, we are definitely global, so we have to think that way, and I guess get data that way. I don't know how much other people tie data into metal detecting, but it's interesting to me.
Right. Well, I guess in a sense, if people stop and think about it, we're all crunching numbers, so to speak, in detecting number of coins that we're finding, or correlation of VDIs from machine to machine, different tones, all of that. Some of the machines are fairly complex, so there's there's a little bit of a level of, crunching some numbers and accumulating data that you're carrying around with you that you're using instantaneously yourself just in your head, because all the bells and whistles, you are the final discriminator on determining whether or not you're going to dig that target.
Josh, you might not be aware of this, but I think you sold me on the MindLab CTX 2200 the other day, because I was asking you about the geotagging and, looking into where you pulled up a signal, and that stuff
the 3030
fascinates me. The 3030. I was off by 1,110.
Well, that
3030.
That's all right. Maybe that'll be the new update from MindLab.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's another thing, I guess, to mention too. You had mentioned that you had upgraded from the $30 detector to the Discovery 2200, the Bounty Hunter. But you actually use a number of different machines on your channel. You've had a Safari on there, you've had an Amphibio on there, you've had the Beach Hunter. Yes.
Yeah, actually, those are the other detectors. The only other one I've owned is a AT Pro, and that was the one after the AT Pro was the one after the Bounty Hunter. Loved it for the water, great recovery speed. I'm like an entry-level metal detecting connoisseur right now. That's how I'm thinking of it. And I don't know all of the differences right now, but my goal is to get to know the differences. And it's an investment. Like buying a detector is like going to a class and figuring out the differences. And, of course you have to commit to using it. That's how I kind of see the next few years of my life.
Right. And recently, I think you had put up a video on your impressions so far with the Amphibio. But when you had put that up, you had also shared a quite an in-depth spreadsheet on what you've kind of thought of the previous detectors that you've used or still currently use, and how they've how they've seemed to kind of excel in certain areas. Because I mean, if there was one machine out there that would do it all for us, we'd all be using the same machine. And many of us own more than one. And there's a reason for that. It's because some of them do better in other environments or other situations.
Yes. Oh, Lou just brought up a good point. I own one more detector. I got my daughter an Ace 350. It was on the Facebook Marketplace. So,
that's right.
I did use that in one video. Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, I do recall you mentioning the Ace in the video as well. So you've had a few.
I think definitely. I think I have the perfect analogy for the Nocta Macro right now. It is like driving a stick shift. It can be configured any way. You could put the gears in. You could accelerate any way that you want. But if you are used to automatic transmission, you're going to naturally struggle with it. It's one of the detectors that I definitely plan to learn more about, but it's been a challenge. It's like that kid in school who tantalizing talent, but high maintenance. That's the Nocta Macro. But I don't regret my decision.
Right. I can say with the Amphibio, the user navigation, at least to me, I've used some machines that are a little overwhelming as far as menu navigation, but the user navigation on the Amphibio is very, very simplified, as long as you get the technology, the terminology down.
Yeah. It's the shortcuts that kind of threw me off at first. Like you have to push two buttons at the same time to switch it over from metric to
standard
inches. Yeah, standard, right. It was like little things like that, and it's very the book that they put in there. It's for 3 or 4 different detectors, because the macro is a combination of a few different detectors. it's meant to be that pocket knife type of detector that you could say, okay, I'm going gold mining. Let's find gold with it. Amphibio, let's get it to work in water. And you know what it does? I found different ways, but it's like you were saying, if there was one that was a perfect 10 all across the board, we would all be using it. I'm noticing right now, in my early days of being a metal detecting connoisseur, that my Beach Hunter, it's specific to the beach. It's superior at the beach compared to the Nocta, so I'm using it. But if I want to get something super deep, nothing compares to the Nocta. So we're gonna see that shine later in the year, I think.
Right, yeah, I believe you even mentioned in the video about a target that you recovered at around 16 inches with the Amphibio.
I stuck my arm, like pretty much my entire arm down the hole. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that is impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I no joke about that. As long as nothing else is around, because it will false on you, no doubt about it. But you can find those super deep signals, no doubt. Nothing. There's no detector better that I'm aware of than the Nocta Macro Amphibio Multi at doing that, pulling the deep signals.
It is a little on the chattery side for some people, but it is a very capable machine, and in that price point, that's good to see.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's $100 cheaper than the MineLab Equinox.
Right.
800 at least. Yeah.
But then they're again different machines for different scenarios. The Equinox is lighter if weight's an issue, and a lot of good points about the Equinox too.
Yeah. No, I love my my MineLab Safari, but the one thing, oh my God, my arm was falling off. That thing was heavy. I got the oversized coil. Let's put it this way: at my current age, 40, I got one muscle that is like in perfect shape. It's my right shoulder muscle from swinging that thing. It was crazy heavy.
Yeah, but they are those Safaris. They're good on jewelry.
Oh, they're good.
They are definitely good on jewelry.
It goes deep too, and it was an intuitive detector in that it knew what to not get. Like if something was too small, you really wouldn't get it. The Nocta Macro, you'll get these tiny pinhead targets. The Safari, it just was like, you don't need that. It decides for you, and I kind of miss that sometimes.
Right, simplicity.
I see some people in the chat who, Bob D seems to love the Equinox. I might have to take a test run on that. I might have to invest in that at some point.
They are nice. They're lightweight and lightning fast, good depth, a very, very good all-around machine. As a matter of fact, Ohio Relic Hunter just posted up yesterday. He found his second ever Ohio Chauffeur's Badge with a Equinox 800.
I might have seen that somewhere on Facebook. Wow. I think I did see that.
And they are good machines. I mean, they're good for small targets too. I think I've what is it, 3 or 4 earrings already this year, maybe even more, that I've found with the Equinox. It'll pick them up just fine. Now, recovering it with the pinpointer, that's a little bit of another story because you're moving it all around in the dirt, but it'll pick them up.
It's interesting. Like we're talking about 5% of the signals. Like you could get a $500 detector, and you get like 95% of the signals that are there.
Absolutely.
But the extra investment, it's for that 5%, the exotic signals, whether it's something that's really small or something that's really deep or both.
Or something that's masked.
Right. And that's the thing about New York. New York is masked. The parks we have, we're if we grow vegetables here, they're going to be part cucumber, part bottle cap, and pull tab.
Right, yeah.
I don't know how Gregor Mendel would feel about that, but it just seems we have so many of those in the ground.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're everywhere. I mean, like in our area, which I'm sure that translates into a number of other areas too, but in our area, there is apparently some unwritten law that says you absolutely cannot leave a pull tab attached to an alcoholic beverage after you open it. That's just, I don't know. It's the same way with the bottle caps from the alcoholic beverages too. I rarely find, say, a bottle cap for, like an older Mountain Dew or Pepsi bottle cap. It's always alcoholic beverages.
I think that a bunch of electors got together, a bunch of people who make the laws, and just said, well, let's make a law that'll make people drink a little bit more, and they'll be happier for the time being. So, and we'll make the bottle cap law right there. So,
right,
that might be how that was made up.
Of course, somehow, somewhere along the way, they're going to pin the bottle caps on Ohio too, because the gentleman that invented the pull tab is actually buried here in Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, not too awful far from me either. So we catch a lot of flack from some of the other detectorists going, yeah, it was an Ohioan that invented the evil pull tab.
Oh. Yeah, that's like our four-letter F word, pull tab, or bottle cap. Yeah,
exactly.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you consider the best detector for masking, for seeing through masked targets?
Seeing through masked targets, I would have to say, at this current point, the XP Deus and the Minelab Equinox are just phenomenal at working in iron and pulling masked targets out. The Amphibio, from what I've seen from it seems to really hit hard on coins on edge that a lot of detectorists, sometimes you don't find them because they're such a short signal. But
right.
The Amphibio really likes to hit those on-edge coin targets. But
the problem I'm having with the Amphibio, and maybe it's a New York-specific thing, because of all of that crazy amount of, let's put it this way, we have something like the equivalent of 26 miles of park within a space that has, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, a certain number of parks, and 8 million people use those same parks. So naturally, there's going to be some droppage,
right.
And it's a magnet to garbage. That's what I've seen. And what I like better about my super, super heavy Safari is that it was like, you don't need that. I could really tell the difference on those signals.
Oh, absolutely. It's like it just ignored it completely. Nah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Now, and I can just imagine in the New York parks like that, especially with a faster, a machine that has a faster processor like the Deus or the Equinox or the Amphibio. When you turn on the Amphibio in those New York parks and go to swing a coil, it probably sounds like machine gun fire.
Yeah, it does. Undoubtedly, it does. That's the struggle of New York. And there's been so many times, though, that you just, when you find one thing that's good in a park, one thing that's old, that there's more that's laying around in those parks. There's one park that I have just been on a mission to single-handedly clean up. Ferry Point Park, which is halfway between my job and home. I've found some serious history there, but it's, like you said, machine gun. That's what you get when you're swinging there. But if you clean it up, it will definitely surprise you.
Oh, absolutely. Work the bad targets out of the ground. You've got to be willing to dig the trash to get to the treasure.
Yeah.
And then there's other areas like you were mentioned earlier, Dead Horse Bay.
Oh, I was there today. Yep.
Yeah, it looks like watching some of the videos of that. There's probably some areas there where a detector's pretty much useless.
Totally useless. I have two in my back of my car today. I was like, nope, not even going to try. I'm just going to go eyes and enjoy the experience. Dead Horse Bay is so fascinating. It just, you go there one day and you see what you see. You come back the next, all of that stuff is gone. It is swallowed up. And it's almost like a slot machine. It shows you what it shows you at that given time. And then it changes all of a sudden. It's wild.
Right, which I thought was kind of fascinating myself. A while back, we had Nicola White on the show, and she was a real trooper. She did the show live, even though it was like, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning for her or something like that in London. And a lot of people think that, you know, obviously, when people think of mudlarking, they think of the Thames, and a lot of people think that that's the only place you can do it, and that's not true. I mean, you can do mudlarking pretty much anywhere. So it was really refreshing to see the videos of Dead Horse Bay, where that's essentially exactly what you are all out there doing, is the mudlarking. It's just on the other side of the pond, so to speak.
Yeah, New York version of mudlarking. That's exactly what it is. And I wondered for years. I'm like, why doesn't somebody pull out a detector on the Thames? And I'm like, I totally understand it now. I brought my detector to Dead Horse Bay, one of the videos that I did, and beyond machine gun, it was like machine gun like on Red Bull. It was that crazy.
Yeah,
it was like, this is pointless.
You can forget about ground balancing.
Exactly. But the funny thing is, like I went today, I found about 10 to 15 coins. It's it's doable there.
Right.
I see a familiar name. Hello, Digging with Deej.
Hey.
Welcome to the chat. Yep.
Yeah, I just seen them drop in. Welcome aboard. Looks like the other listeners are welcoming them as well.
And before I forget, I just want to say thank you to anybody who's deciding to spend their Wednesday night here. Like it's humbling. It's truly appreciated. So thank you.
Yes, I'm sure that you have noticed a few familiar names to you in the chat.
Yes.
Nice to see. Definitely nice to see. And another thing, too, that this had kind of sparked my curiosity when I had gotten over to the channel myself, because you had actually came as a suggestion by another YouTuber, Brian Quilty, that he had commented on one of the videos saying, hey, you should check out Metal Detecting NYC. And I thought, hey, I'm all the time telling people, if you've got somebody you want to hear from, a topic you want to hear about, whatever, reach out to me. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. I'll do what I can to look into things. And I went over to your channel and started looking around, especially like the video about the Bud Light commercial. That kind of dates some of us, I'm sure, but other members of the chat there will get the gist with the Real Men of Genius commercials. Really got a kick out of that, and then happened to run across an update video that you've been doing something pretty much from the start. Very interesting with your recovered clad coins that some people may not have thought of.
Yeah, so I'm doing a series called Becoming a Millionaire Metal Detecting. And of course, that's a very, that title is presuming something that might not happen, and instead of, spending the clad, or some people just are like, okay, there's no way that this is going to be clean enough and accepted, so they hold on to it. I'm putting all of that into a Coinstar machine. From the Coinstar machine, I take a Amazon.com gift certificate. My wife gets the gift certificate. I take that same amount of money. So if I pull $25, say, I get a $25 gift certificate, give that to my wife. I take $25, I put that into my brokerage account. And I've been buying stock with the clad. And it's one thing that I do to try to look forward to getting clad, because, it's everywhere, but guess what? It's not a bad thing.
Right, yeah, exactly right. It's everywhere, and a lot of people, myself included, some days you get out there and you're like, oh man, it's another zinc penny. Won't they just destroy these things? And this is a creative and constructive way that you have a use for those clad coins that you're digging up, so suddenly it's not as bad to find them. It all adds up after a while, and some of us use it to put gas in the tank to get to the next hunt, or buy that next accessory coil, or there's been times where I've used it to buy different silver and gold bullion or coin or something like that. At one point, I had even taken a bunch of my dug clad in when we were closing on our house to help with closing costs.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it's like, okay, we don't always appreciate what we have. And first of all, the experience, I love the process of metal detecting. It's my happy place, as I'm sure it is with so many people that are listening right now. And, basically it allows me to say, all right, you know what? There's no pressure to get a ring. There's no pressure to get a piece of history. And YouTube, oh man, you put out videos. Yes, there is the pressure for
right.
That. Yeah, and it's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do something with the clad. What I'm trying to do right now is this is where I'm interested. I'm going to make some art with some of the bottle caps. That's what's coming out next.
There you go.
Use my art degree, but it's all how you look at things, and the creative people, you find a way to take an average item and do more with it. With the stocks, like you pick, every time that I pick up a quarter on the beach or in a park, I'm like, okay, guess what? This time next year, that's going to be a quarter plus a penny, plus a zinc Lincoln.
Right. I'm going to make it grow.
Yep. That's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you mentioned the bottle caps and such, because my wife does that herself. She's big into the upcycling, and I don't know how many times I can come up and take a handful of stuff out of my bag, and she'll be like, what are you doing with that? Don't throw that away. I can make something out of that. And she will. She'll bring it home. I'll clean it up. She'll make pull tab jewelry, or who knows what it winds up getting turned into. But it makes the environment a better place. We've taken it out of the ground.
Exactly. Metal detectorists, like we sometimes, like in that commercial, the Real Men of Genius commercial, that was trolling before trolling, but we do a lot of good. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times the public can have such a stigma on what we do with the outlook of the things that we do. Some of them think that we're out there looting and pillaging and destroying property and things like that. And a lot of people don't realize that there's many times that we're kind of the unsung heroes, so to speak, because of what we're doing to clean up the environment, or the knives or syringes and nails that we find close to the surface of the ground, broken bottles and things like that people could really seriously injure themselves on. And they don't think about that. I say
with absolute, I'm sorry to cut you off there. I say with pride that I I'm proud to stop coin pollution. I stopped coin pollution in New York City. So, darn it, there we go.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. Exactly.
And, hey, it's to each their own. We all try to get out there and get what we can. Sure, we get some trash along with it, but generally, especially if we make that nice find, it makes all those junk targets that we've detected or picked up that were laying on the surface or whatever well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, on so many levels, it's the best hobby out there. It's definitely how I want to spend my time. And I'm recalling one of your early questions, like how did you get into it? The other half of it was being caught in traffic so much, and you pass a lot of parks, and it's like, okay, instead of being miserable, caught in traffic, honking my horn and cutting people off, nope, getting off, keeping a detector in my trunk. I'm going to go detecting. And it's just, it's the perfect balance for me. And I almost wish more people would give it a try. I've been recruiting, actually.
Right. Yeah. Hey, you never know. I'm sure, like with some of the rest of us, I'm sure many of us have gotten those messages in the past before. One of these days, if you haven't already, you may get a message. Hey, thanks for the videos you put up. You inspired me to get into the hobby, or something of that nature, where that's it's a great compliment to get.
Yeah, it really is. I've gone as far to, friends that I haven't seen in years. When you become a parent, especially, it's really busy. And
right.
This, by having an extra detector or a few extra detectors, guess what I could do? I'm like, hey, guess what? Come with me. I'm going to introduce you to metal detecting. And a lot of people I have actually bought a detector after going detecting with me, and that's really cool. I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah, see that, I mean, when people tell me stuff like that, I'm going, thank you. That just made my day to know that what I'm doing that may seem mundane to some other people actually inspired you to get involved with this. That's very cool. That's quite the compliment.
The bottom line is people can easily see what a person is passionate about, and when they sense that, they give it a little bit extra of a look. And I think, people probably think I have a one-track mind these days, but they can tell I'm passionate. So it's worked out for a few people, I think, and I'm very happy about that.
Right, and I'm sure you know as well as I do, anybody can get a detector. When you start talking to them about it, though, some people, 30 seconds in, their eyes kind of glaze over, and they're like, yeah, I'm really, it doesn't matter, I'm not really getting this like you are, or whatever. And you can tell that when you find those that have the true passion for the hobby, the herd really starts to thin, and it thins quick.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, that's why I also started to rap. So if they don't want to listen to me talk, now I could just I could rap it with them.
Right, mix it up a little bit.
Oh, I see a comment in the chat. Merrill, have you ever gone up to upstate New York to detect? Yes, I did. Actually, in one of my recent videos, I just posted. I went up to Lake Placid, and my family and I do that every year. And I love detecting up in the Adirondacks. It's just so beautiful. It's New York is beautiful too. I'm a proud New Yorker, no doubt about it. But you want the opposite of what you are so used to. It's just a natural thing. Like if you grew up in the country, I've seen it. People want to go to the city. Me, I've grown up in the city, so naturally I want to go to a place where there's a lot of trees. Lake Placid is awesome. So I jumped in a bunch of lakes up there and found a bunch of good stuff. It was a lot of fun. So yes, I have.
Oh yeah, and the videos were very well done. Some great scenery, and yeah, you certainly didn't do bad for yourself.
Yeah, it was a fun trip. And I had some good company. More so gold mining with me. My family did that with me. I've been working on getting them detecting. They have their own detectors, but my guys are 10 and 8. I'm sorry, 10 and 6 years old. So
Right.
it's kind of heavy for them now.
They have their own. It's just getting them to the point where they'd like to use it.
Yes. And the struggle is real.
Yeah, which I got to admit that was I did get a chuckle out of the video where you started off with I did face another challenge that day. Would you like to go metal detecting?
And everybody is like, we're not wired that way, Dad.
Right, yeah, or even in the water. You want to give it a try? Quick, hurry up, run away, run to shore.
The funny thing was with that video and my daughter, she's 6, so she doesn't realize this yet. And I got her the Ace 350. It was like $50 on Facebook.
Oh, you can't beat that.
Yeah, you can't beat that. She thinks it's a toy detector, and that's why she won't use it. And it drives me crazy. You could get good stuff with it, and I've shown her that. But she wants to use my detectors, but they're taller than her.
Right, so, yeah, that's a bit much when, between the detector and beach scoop, it probably feels like it weighs almost as much as she does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of tends to complicate things a little bit.
I'm going to be patient. I'm going to let them choose for themselves. I'm passionate about it, but, I want to give them the tools in order to do it. If they don't, it won't break my heart. But no, right. I lied. Yes, it will, but but I'll support them.
Well, and sometimes too, especially with the kids, if it seems like you're pushing it upon them, then you're actually driving them away from it.
Well said. Yes, absolutely.
But sometimes they wind up taking to it quite nice. I mean, what kid doesn't like the allure of discovery?
Yeah. No, there's a Picasso quote. It took me 5 years to learn to paint like a master, but a lifetime to learn to paint like a child. And to me, what that means is, if you put a radio on for somebody who is 5 years old, they're going to dance. But if you do that for an adult, they're going to be aware of the social environment around them. I really think that there are a lot more people that are naturally wired to do detecting, but they don't allow themselves to because of how they feel that they're going to be perceived by others around them.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely, I would have to agree there, definitely. And I've noticed too, especially with some of the younger generation in the hobby, they really start to take to it, and they're just sponges for information. They want to learn all about the history behind these finds that they make, because a lot of this stuff they're not getting in the educational system.
Yeah. It's funny. There's been a push to actually cut social studies out as a core class, and it's not close to happening in New York. But just seeing that debate has broken my heart because that's such an important subject. You know history so that you don't make the same mistakes. So that it puts things into context. Why something is special. You can be told. Yes, you need to appreciate this, but you need the context in order to drive that message home. And metal detecting, I'm not going to lie, there were a lot of things that I have found that I'm like, what the heck is this? But
right. Some
of the most rewarding stuff is when you do the research on it and you're like, oh my God, I found this. That's crazy. That's this old, this could have been in the hands of this person and that person.
Right. And I've noticed too that some kids really pick up on it fast just because it's tangible. It's something they can hold. It has so much more meaning to them than just reading it out of a book or having somebody tell them.
Well said. Think about it. It is a backwards way of learning history. You dig it up, then you say, what is it? You research it, you post online. Can anybody identify this? And it's a backwards way.
Right.
And a great way.
But it works because some of us, not everybody learns the same way. Some people can read a book and be fine with it. Others are hands-on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I see that Digging with Deej says to have your daughter watch Little Dirt Diggers or Miss Emily Copeland. But the way it sounds, your daughter's already quite the fan of Miss Detectorist.
That is correct. I'm glad you brought that up. Miss Detectorist, everybody should check out that channel. Let me put that in the chat right there.
She does a very good job with her videos. We actually had her on the show right in the midst of launching her YouTube channel.
Yeah. No, and she is actually, I can quantify this. She's the fastest growing metal detecting channel on YouTube, and you better believe I'm rooting for her. I wrote her a comment, and yes, Maya Schofield. I wrote her a comment that I try to show my kids my metal detecting channel, and they're like, "Yeah, great, Dad. You live with us. We don't, we hear your voice all the time. We don't need to hear it more in video form, okay?" But anyway, I had a Miss Detectorist video on. I was looking through YouTube, and I'm like, okay, here is, a young lady who is doing detecting. She sure knows her stuff. But long story short, I put it on for my daughter. That was the first metal detecting video that she watched from beginning to end. And I wrote that in a comment to Maya Schofield. And the next day I get a message back. What size t-shirt does your daughter wear? Because I want to make her one. And she sent my daughter a t-shirt, a beautiful, beautiful note, and she made a necklace out of a coin that she found. Like all for my daughter. And it was like, she just made a fan for life. Like talk about awesome people right there, and talk about hope for the future. She's a young lady who clearly knows her stuff as a detectorist, and like the gesture was just amazing. So,
oh yeah, and I'm sure had a major impact for your daughter.
Oh, she wears that shirt all the time, and that's the thing. I can see her getting into it. She's not strong enough yet. Like maybe if I gave her a pinpointer, but in a few years I could see her really getting into it.
Right.
Digging with Deej just said the number of women detecting has greatly increased over the last 3 years. Absolutely.
Absolutely it has. Definitely. There's no debating that. And it's actually, I was going to say, it's actually very refreshing to see, because this is a hobby that was at one time a primarily male-dominated hobby. And now we're finally seeing more and more women coming over to it. I mean, my wife even metal detects. And it's great to see the refreshing mix. It's showing, hey, they're not afraid to get out there and get dirty too. Barb in the chat, she makes some great finds, and she'd be some stiff competition for any digger out there. She just doesn't quit.
No doubt about it. I see my buddy Dennis Foster in the chat, and he and his mom Marilyn are a detecting team, and I went with them and Jonathan up to Orchard Beach, and it's nice to see that. It's you want to make it a family affair. You want it to just be not. It's open to everybody. It's something that can change anybody's life, regardless of if you're a guy, a girl. It's just the greatest hobby. It really is.
Yeah, it's not an age or gender discriminating hobby or anything. The hobby will accept anybody. You just got to have the passion for it and the desire to get out there and find stuff. And really, in the end of it all, it doesn't even really matter what you've found necessarily or what you're swinging. You're creating memories, and nobody can take that away. The finds may come and go.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you,
No,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I look at it this way. I think my kids see how determined I am with this and how focused and how much I love it. And if nothing else, it models that for them. Will they get into detecting? That's up to them. I'm going to push, you better believe it, but it ultimately is up to them. But what they will see is, me going full speed at it, and it gives me a chance to model that.
Right, absolutely. If not anything else, the worst possible case scenario that comes out of it is that the kids learn, hey, I'm going to pursue what I enjoy, and I'm going to give it all I can.
Yep, absolutely.
And in that aspect, I mean, hey, great life lesson right there for them.
Definitely so.
Maybe, along the way, they'll take to the detecting and the history, though, and so much more they can learn that way.
I got a request for the audience. If they feel so obliged, I know they're, not to work you, Josh, but I know there's a call-in line. I'm more than willing if anybody wanted to call in. That would be a thrill for me, actually. So if anybody had a question, wanted to call in.
A lot of times we do have somebody throwing the call-in number in the chat. I don't know if anybody's throwing it out there, but it is open, 419-549-5744, and that has been posted with the links everywhere on Facebook, and I believe even before the show, you may have even shared it over on the Metal Detecting NYC page.
I did, yes. I'm trying to actually pull that up right now so I could. I know you just said it, but so I could throw it in the chat. Yeah, having fun here. Thanks again for having me.
Oh, not a problem. The pleasure is all mine, actually. With getting into the hobby and everything, what inspired you to name? I mean, obviously it's because you're around New York, but did you think, man, what am I going to call myself?
I had the idea with the logo, the Statue of Liberty with the metal detector.
Very creative.
Yeah, I had to go with that. I'm like, all right, I'm Metal Detecting NYC because, we got Lady Liberty here with the detector.
Nice. Well, it does seem to be working out well for you. I was going to use that thumbnail as the thumbnail for tonight's show, but for some reason I was having a little bit of problem with the image parameters and had to go with something else. I think I found one that I think it was an image that
it was me in the Apple Store. Yeah, I was trying to get a video out last week. No, that's good. That's fine. I was very frustrated in the Apple Store, and that's why you see me kind of like grinning at the camera like, oh, great. I couldn't get a video to render, and I had to, I brought it to the Genius Bar. The guy at the Genius Bar is like, oh, I don't really do the iMovie stuff. And I'm like, oh, darn it. So, but he wound up fixing it.
That is another good point, too. With people that, in the past, when I've had guests on that actually have YouTube channels, a lot of times we do happen to ask them, for those who may be interested, what cameras and editing software you like to use.
Good question. So cameras, I have two primary cameras. One is a pair of glasses. I have a video on that on my channel. Let me put the link into that. I think they're called Zentronics. And basically, it's a pair of glasses that have a camera on them. And it's really handy for metal detecting. I recommend them with one warning. They don't last very long. You have about 30 minutes before they run out of batteries. The battery charge is not too good. So I combine that with a GoPro. And between the two, I kind of cover all of that. And for editing, I just use iMovie. I own a Mac, so it's, came with it, so kept it simple.
Right. Well, and I've seen people do some very, very good video production with iMovie. They've got a lot of nice features in it.
Oh, sorry. Just had to pause that. I'm just getting the link. There I go with multitasking again, or lack thereof. Okay, got that. This is for the glasses. Use. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, people may be interested in those because I know some of the camera glasses are not really very good quality, and there are a lot out there that people could literally wind up just throwing their money to the wind with. I've used occasionally. I have a pair of camera glasses myself. They're the pivot heads, if I remember correctly.
Pivot heads. Mine, the one problem the second problem, I said the one was the battery life. The other thing, it gives you a crazy panorama or fisheye effect. Like you could literally see the back of your head you literally can't. No, that's not true. But
yeah, quite the wraparound there.
Exactly. It's a pretty wide field of view. And
right.
I'm not aware of any way to change that. But, sometimes there's a place for that.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
get more familiar with your tools, you know when to use which one and so forth.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Honestly, I can't remember now. It's been so long since I've used the pivot heads that I can't remember if there was a way to change the frame aperture in the settings or not. I know with the GoPro, a lot of times you can change that field of vision, but I'm not sure about some of the camera glasses.
Yeah, I think the pair that I have, because I looked, at least on YouTube, it was not possible, really. I see We're getting some new people trickling in, tied to River Styx Outdoors. I've been following the chat here. I've been in and out, so.
Yeah, River Styx.
Ambient Girl Relic Hunter, how are you?
Oh, we've got a couple of new ones in there.
Yes.
Yeah, River Styx definitely likes to indulge in his share of YouTube videos and put a few up himself from time to time, which, if people didn't see his most recent one, got some great wildlife shots in there.
Cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Especially the thumbnail from his last video. That was that was kind of a money shot, so to speak, in terms of photography. Just a really great view. Definitely.
Very nice.
So, with being the connoisseur, you could say the beginning connoisseur of detectors, where does Merrill see himself going from here? What might be the next detector on his list to try his hands at?
The one that I'm really curious about, because I have loved my MindLab Safari so much. I have to say, the best detector I've ever owned to this day is the MindLab Safari. It's broken right now. I guess I've been procrastinating on getting it fixed. I think the next one is going to be the Equinox. However, the data point of the 3030, that really intrigues me, but that's a little on the expensive side.
Yeah, a little bit. You can get yourself a couple of Equinoxes for the cost of the CTX.
I look at it this way too. I've been reading a lot lately about businesses, and if you, for instance, I've been doing YouTube really since 2008. And it's my side business, I suppose. I have learned a lot about the taxes and tax law. These detectors, legitimate write-offs. You pull some in from YouTube, and that's one way that I look at it too. So you have to invest in terms of monetary capital, and you get something back from that. So that's one thing I guess I want to pass on as well, because recognize a lot of the names out there in the stations from YouTube channels. Perhaps that's another way that other people can legitimately increase their metal detecting inventory.
Right. Well, and when you stop and think about it, it helps out in terms of the YouTube channel as well, because it makes it a little more versatile, a little more faceted, and even helps to drive content if you're trying out another machine and you're letting the viewers know what your first impressions are of it, or why you like this particular machine, or what situation you like to use that machine in.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you can tell sometimes there's stores that do videos, and it's not somebody that has used the detector for a long period of time. Whenever there's a detector comparison video, you can tell right away, okay, this is somebody who has swung this for, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 100 hours, versus somebody who's like, I read the manual. I want to be the person who swung it for so long and can give an accurate comparison.
Right. Yeah, you get some people out there where they're like, yeah, I read the book. I used the machine for 6 hours. I know it inside and out. No, not the case.
No. Anybody could quote the book, but you can tell. Oh, you could tell right away. Yeah, who's used it and who hasn't.
Right, and that's another thing too. You got to give yourself a fair amount of time with a detector. You know, don't just go out and use it once and go, oh, that's it, I'm done with this, I'm going to wrap it around a tree. Give it a fair shake, because sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve with them.
I forced myself to use the Nocta on the beach again, and every time that I use it, it gets a little bit better. It also solidifies in my mind each time that I use it that the Beach Hunter 300 is the better detector at the beach. But you know, like we were brushing on this point before, like there's no one detector that across the board is perfect. And you know, or like an Albert Einstein, you know, like yes, he's a genius in science, but you know, if you put him on a basketball court, probably not going to be that great of a basketball player. You know, it's like that across the board. And you know, I want to treat it like a bullpen. I'm a big baseball fan. I want my detectors to be my relievers and stoppers and starters. You know, like I want to have my starting pitcher and so forth, and you know, go and really know my staff cold, if I could use a baseball term.
Right. Well, and it will be interesting to see, because you've used the Amphibio a few times now, but from what I've seen, it's always been more or less in a beach or shallow water scenario. It'll be very interesting to see what that's like if you get it out into some dirt, you know, in the fall.
Yeah, that's the thing. The fall, like right now, it's so hot and the grass is so high. And the one time that I was praising this detector like crazy was the one that I pulled that 16-inch target from, and that was a park setting, and that's where I really think it's going to thrive.
I've heard from other people too that you know, on the dirt, the Amphibio is definitely a machine that will rival others. On the beach, it may stumble a little bit, but then again, that could be due to, you know, improper settings or something, where if the settings are just right, it may do fairly decent on a beach too, but I'm hearing very, very good things of people with it in the dirt.
I'm thankful for YouTube for learning it. What's his name? Darnell.
Yeah, we've had him on the show a while back.
I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from Hunter GT about the Amphibio. The book, that's the one bone I have to pick with them. The manual is terrible. Out of all of the manuals that I've read, and yes, I read them, that is not a teaching manual at all. It's horrendous. And that's coming from an educator there. I'm going to take my red pen to it.
Right, go on. Believe me, I'm qualified. Well, and you're right. There are some very, very good YouTube videos out there explaining things. Well, like you said, how to change the depth increment from centimeters over to standard, or how to pair the headphones, or I believe somebody else's video had pointed out that if you change the coil, then it automatically defaults back to centimeters, and you've got to hit those buttons again to get it put back to standard if that's what you like.
Yes.
And that's one of the things. I mean, you do have to push a few buttons to get it to do things sometimes.
That's the thing. I do not have my entire universe mapped out on it. So I can't really give a full appraisal of it at this point. And that's why I've resisted. I've hinted what I'm feeling. I've been honest about what I'm feeling, especially in the beach videos. But it's also done some spectacular things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do give credit where credit's due. A 16-inch target, that's impressive for any VLF machine.
Yeah, that's insane.
Right. Any sort of most memorable find that happens to pop into your mind, or what was your favorite find? Not necessarily because of value.
Oh, I don't even know where to begin with this one, but I would say the one that just popped into my head right now was my first colonial coin, and that was found by my MindLab Safari. That might be why I like it so much. It was a Spanish real that I found in a New York park. You know, like there's stuff that's still there. We're talking public parks in New York City. It's, you know, if you get that detector that gives you the extra 5%, you get to those targets. You have to be precise where you swing. You can't miss it at all. But if you go right over it, you get that little faint beep, and that's a possibility. Could be that rusty nail that is reading wrong, but it also could be it could be something that's great.
Right, that deep coin on edge or something like that, or maybe it's masked a little bit because of another target in the hole, but there's still, you're getting enough information that it's still catching your interest that you want to dig it and see.
Yeah. I'd like to know this. I see this in the chat. Digging It with Deej just said, found my first largie at 15 inches. Congratulations to that.
Nice.
Because I'm trying to be that detecting connoisseur. Whatchamacallit? What would be, for the people in the chat, your favorite detector that you have ever had? What would that be? I'm curious.
That's going to be an interesting question. My chat just blew up, I'm sure. Because, you know, everybody's going to say that their favorite one, obviously, is probably the one that they use the most, and, you know, what they feel that they've made their best finds with.
I see a question. Merrill, have you ever thought about privy digging in NYC? I saw a show on that. That's beyond. Yes, I want to do it. That's beyond my current research that I'm doing. I've been doing a lot of historic aerials. I've been going back to old newspaper articles. I think in order to dig privies, and correct me if I'm wrong, you really need to know the layout of where old houses were, and you need to have somewhat of a blueprint of what that is. You know, I've never done that. That's my short answer to that.
Well, it would definitely help the situation, and, you know, just like with the detecting or mudlarking or prospecting, the more that you dabble in it, the more knowledge you walk away with. To where you would evolve and get more astute at it, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's what I am definitely striving for, and I have a feeling a lot of people in here feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in those terms, you have definitely chosen a great path, because this is a hobby that you can literally learn something new every day as long as you stay open-minded. It's so faceted. You've got the privy digging, the bottle digging, the mudlarking, the prospecting, the meteorite hunting, gem fossicking, coin shooting. It's an the treasure hunting is just kind of an all-encompassing term.
Big thanks to Alexander Graham Bell. That was I know the printing press got the invention of the century, but I'd like to put the metal detector up there.
Right? Hey, I'm sure that there are plenty of people in the chat that would definitely agree with you there on that aspect.
Yep.
It's
Definitely.
it's just a shame that they didn't have a better understanding of it at the time, because it didn't work out so well for Garfield.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But see, that's the thing. When you get into a hobby like this, at least for me anyway, like when I was in high school, I didn't really, the history classes that they taught in school just really didn't catch my interest. But with the metal detecting, now I'm holding the history, and you find yourself wanting to know more and more about it every time you go out.
You just said something that just it created a thought, or brought back a thought. I started as a teacher. I'm like an administrator now, and I work in an area like South Bronx. A lot of the schools have had metal detectors, the different type of metal detectors. When you enter, you get, treated almost like you're committing a crime,
right,
before you even do anything.
Walk through
right.
Scanners and
exactly.
security wands.
And one thing I want to do, and perhaps I'll get going on this like right away. I'll try to get this done this year. Like, I want to start a metal detecting club at my current school. And, it's, especially in New York, I never mind it when I see other detectorists out. Like you could be there with 10, 12 people in a small park. There's plenty of stuff for everybody.
Right. We're never going to find it all.
No, never going to find it all. And especially, especially in New York, like you just, it's good to see other detectorists. So I think I want to create a few. That's the plan.
That would be very, very cool. I like the concept. Plant the seed and see what happens. And by all means, if you follow through with it, we'd love to hear how that goes for you.
That's the plan. I think that's going to be set in motion. I think I know exactly how to do it.
Well, I'm sure that you are obviously seeing some of your various YouTube videos on both of your channels. You're a very creative person. I'm sure you can find a way to bring it to fruition.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It all starts with following passion, It's not work, and you just you go with where your inspiration is, and it just becomes seamless and easier, in my opinion.
Absolutely, that kind of keeps the fire going, so to speak.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, I think we've probably kept you on for quite some time, but I think before we get out of here, I'll give just a few minutes and hand the floor over to you and let you share any parting points of wisdom for newcomers coming into the hobby that may have made things easier for you if you had known, or even if you want to give anybody a shout out, a special YouTube channel to you, or Facebook page or whatever, and obviously where people can find you as well.
Oh man, where to begin on this? And I tell you what, I know I could be long-winded. If I start going off, you just be like, all right, Merrill, you're good. We've had enough here. All right, so I'm going to stick on that theme, just tips that I have learned over the course of detecting. One is that the metal detector is a tool, but the ultimate tool that you have is your brain and the inferencing that you do when you detect. And there's a lot of observation that you have to do, a lot of background work that you have to do. And I suppose this summer especially, it's been a big learning experience for me, going to different beaches, for instance. I went to a bay beach for the first time, and I put out this video it's been getting a good amount of views now, everything that I know about beach tips. And I go to a bay beach, which is different because you have land that is kind of blocking it, that's kind of like blocking the waves. And it takes a totally different knowledge, and it made me want to do that video over again. This stuff drops like right there because you don't have those strong waves. So you have to put that inferencing into effect. You have to say, all right, you're not going to get the same consolidation that you get when you have waves and the physics that move stuff. You have to say, all right, this moves a lot more slowly, and you have to think, okay, where are people going to drop it? And your fingers shrink when you're in the water. So really, it's a lot of water detecting. And if you really want to put everything together with the heat that's out there, oh man, I've been having a blast this summer being in the water, swinging underwater. You don't have to worry about the heat. You put on good sunblock. It makes the, instead of like burning up in a park and cutting through really thick grass on so many levels, it's just everything has been aligned. I've got something new to stimulate me in that, being in a new beach detecting environment. But I guess the big thing I wanted to say is it's that inference, the observation that you do when you detect, and knowing that no matter how good a detector is, no matter how much of a connoisseur that you are, it's really just a connection with your brain. And your brain and your sense of logic is what's going to get you the treasure. Second, dig with people. My learning has taken off this year. I've made a bunch of new friends through YouTube, and you start looking at other people. You start watching what they do, and you start applying that. And that's one of the most important takeaways that I've done this year. I don't know if he's listening now, but there's a guy I detect with. His name is Rob Crespo, and he owns a Equinox. He owns a really good whites machine, but his go-to machine is a bounty hunter. And we hunt Orchard Beach together. I saw Dennis out there in the audience. I'm sure he knows exactly who I'm talking about. Every single time, because he knows his beach so well, and he knows his, I forget the name of it. It was a bounty hunter. It's like a $250 detector. Literally, I've seen this guy every day pull items that are worth more than his detector day after day after day, because he's mastered those two things. One, he knows his detector. Two, he knows the ground so well that he's detecting on. So I'm going to shut myself off. I know metal detecting, I could talk about probably days on end, but I'm going to curb my enthusiasm right here and just say thank you to everybody.
Well, you're right, though. It's all relative to time spent with that machine, because the better you know your machine, quite frankly, the more lethal you are in the field with it for recovering the coins and relics.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any mention you'd like for how people can find you?
I mean, good luck spelling Merrill Kazanjian. So I guess it would just be Metal Detecting NYC. And I guess if you want if you or anybody that you know needs art lessons, I've got a whole channel that has something like 300 to 400 videos that pretty much map out how to draw Hey, what's up, Jonathan? I see Jonathan just made it here. Yeah, Metal Detecting NYC. That's the name of my channel. Yeah, that's it.
Well, okay, that works.
You're like, he kept it short. Oh my God. I know it's a miracle.
No worries there at all. People enjoy to listen. Some people like to catch the archives, and that's the beauty of it, because they can always pause it or pick up where they left off if they'd like to catch the rest of it. If they've had to leave for one reason or another, life happens. Things come up.
Absolutely.
Well, I would like to thank you once again for taking the time to sit down with us tonight. You have been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully continued success on the adventures as well as the YouTube channel and the upcoming rap career, apparently.
Yeah, I'm trying to take that seriously, I suppose, but not too seriously. No, I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Josh. I truly appreciate it.
Well, and you know what they say, when it starts to feel more like work, then maybe it's time to take a break from it.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, hang in there with me for a few minutes, Merrill, and we'll get on out of here and get on to whatever else we may have going on this evening.
Sounds good.
So for everyone else, if you enjoyed the show, make sure and throw us a like. You can follow us here on Spreaker. You can follow us on the Beyond Sight and Sound page on Facebook, Metal Detecting Beyond Sight and Sound Facebook group, iTunes, iHeart, many of the other wonderful podcast distribution services, as well as the other great Facebook groups out there, like Dirt Pirates, All Metal Militia, Ohio Relic Hunters. There again, the list could just run on and on and on. A lot of great groups out there, and we certainly appreciate everyone else for tuning in here tonight. For those that follow the show over on YouTube, they can catch it over on Ohio Metal Detecting, and while you're over there, make sure and stop by and check out Metal Detecting NYC. Leave them a comment, subscribe, let them know you heard about them here on Beyond Sight and Sound. It's always nice to know where it's coming from, right, folks? Until the next time, though, I do believe we're going to roll. We'll see what happens, what Sunday brings. We've got some few other interesting shows coming up in the Wednesdays to come. Next Wednesday, I believe we are covering electrolysis for you electrolysis users. And who knows, there may even be a giveaway. I guess you'll have to tune in and find out. Until the next time, though, we're going to roll. We'll catch you on the pages. Have a wonderful evening, folks.